Hello everybody, today I'm actually fulfilling a Patreon request. I did put the line out there. I say to all of the guys that sign up, or guys and gals that sign up, is there anything that you'd really like to learn? And Michael Henderson from Perth actually, he mentioned that he's, any information on soloing over various chords or over chord progressions would be helpful. So it's a massive question, but I'm going to make kind of a stream of consciousness sort of post on this one, and we'll see how we go. So now, soloing over chord progressions, it doesn't have to be complicated. If you've got a progression that has a series of chords that are in one key, it's not too complicated. So let's just go through that real quick. I'll do a really simple little thing. I've got the looper set up here. Hopefully this works. I don't know if it needs to be reset. We'll see. So let's say we go... I'll let that run for a sec. Now the first thing I'll say is this whole progression is in the key of A. If your first chord is a major chord, let's shut that up. If your first chord is a major chord, then you might be able to just use that chord's key. So if it's A, you might be able to use A major. Now I know I'm using a minor chord and stuff, but generally what we call a diatonic chord progression, or think of it as like a matching chord progression within one key, you can then just use that scale. Now you probably know that might be simple, but let me just muck around with that for a sec. Now, whenever I play a solo, I generally use a variety of things. I tried to keep that more simple. I was just using major scale notes. And even when I bent there, I bent from a B to a C sharp. I was playing in the key of A. Kept it really simple. You can come up with really cool stuff. A really cool tip, like a lot of jazz guys will do, is they'll just sing whatever they want to play. And they'll practice, or they might come up with lines that way. So if you've got a looper, loop your progression and then see what ideas you can hear and see if you can work them out off that major scale. Now, sometimes some progressions won't always start on the root note, but generally it will at the very least resolve on that major chord. When I say root note, if the chord progression may not begin on what we might think of as the home plate. So if we're playing in the key of A, but we start on F sharp, the last chord was the A major. But generally speaking, a major chord will, whatever the key is, that chord will appear, okay, generally, most of the time. Pretty rare for it not to. So that's one little tip. Of course, if it is a minor bass progression, every minor key has a parent major key. And we're going to get into some of this stuff. I'm actually going to start teaching this stuff for you guys. But another really simple way to put it, if like your first chord or your last chord or your resolving chord, if you will, appears at the start or the end, if it is a minor chord, then you can probably use a minor scale. So before we played A major, what about if we do, let me just delete that. Let me do a progression with a minor chord as the focus. So let's try that. Now I'm going to solo with F sharp minor. Here we go. Welcome to my stream of consciousness. It's pretty jerky. there you go. So I was just playing F sharp minor. Okay. Now, the next problem you might have, what if there's chords in there that aren't within one key? This is where it gets a little bit more challenging. How will you know as well? Again, this stuff is not easy to answer in a simple way, but if you find you're okay, I'm using the minor scale and it's just not working, there's parts that are clashing really bad, you might have a chord that uses a note or borrows a note, you know, from what we call outside that key. Let's go back to our first progression that was diatonic, was in one key, it was just in A major. Can't remember what that progression was, but anyway, let's take a similar progression, right? And I'm going to deliberately put one chord in there that is outside of the key. Okay, so let's say we go A major, F sharp minor, D, and then what I'm going to do is instead of going to, let's use a B7 for argument's sake. All right, so now I know what notes are in those chords, and that's how I'm able to do this, but it may be more challenging if you have to figure this out by ear, but you can do it, okay? There'll be a chord that something sticks out. Find the note in the chord. So in this progression, and not to say that it doesn't work, it works quite nicely. But what I would do is I would work out what that note is. So for there, it was that D sharp to me that was really sticking out. And then I might come back to my major scale, and then I'll try and find it in that shape, or whatever box shape you might decide to try and work from. So we've got A, B, C sharp. The note in question was a D sharp. So I'm going to try and insert that into my progression at that point of, into my solo at that point of the progression. So let's record that. It's a bit unusual, that one, but you can see the idea. Take your major scale, or it could even be within a minor context. Let's actually try that. But I'll finish what I was saying. Take your major scale, and if there's notes that use outside chords, take those notes and see if you can shift them around within your major scale. Again, this is all I'm putting this in a very simple way. It's much more complicated if you want to nail it, but or really truly understand it, but at least this is a workaround. Now, let's try that with a minor progression. I'll play... all right, sorry, I'm thinking on the spot here. Let's see if we take... All right, this is cool. So what I'm going to do, instead of playing A major, which would have matched F sharp minor, right, I'm actually going to play an A minor. So we're going to get this shift because we have a C sharp and an F sharp minor, and when we go to A minor, we're going to get that creepy C natural. And that's what makes Psychobilly awesome. So this will happen when you're experimenting with chords, and then trying to find it when in a solo can be really useful. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take F sharp minor, and at that point, instead of playing C sharp, I'm going to play a C natural. I want to say a C flat. It's crazy. All right, here we go. You can see very quickly why a good theory series might be really helpful. We'll get into that. So here we go. Alright, geez, I'm not making this easy for myself. These are actually not the easiest progressions to play over, because they're somewhat, they're not conventional in any way, shape or form, but sometimes you get really complicated jazz progressions. Excuse me for talking about jazz, but it's simpler because there's usually some kind of logic. But one of the awesome things about psychobilly is some of the stuff is completely illogical. Well, not illogical, but it's just unconventional, and that can be really challenging in its own way. So a couple of things I was doing there as well, I started using the arpeggio from the A minor. Alright, so if you want to get really creative, that's a great tool to have as well. So now, I'm going to teach the major scale, the minor scale. So if some of that stuff was completely lost on you, keep an eye out for those videos. That will be really helpful. I'm going to do a series called Theory for Psychos. So it's basically just going to be theory lessons with a bit of slapback, really, and maybe a little bit of overdrive. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got questions, fire away. Go to my Patreon if you want more. I'm going to be putting up exercises and stuff, and that series as well will have paperwork to go with it that will be available on Patreon. So hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Thank you.